I've been using this for the last month and a half in various situations to stay cool and also to keep warm. It is dual function, and we will get into that. In 2022, I bought my first neck fan. 2 years later in 2024, I upgraded. I've talked about this in my useful EDC roundup list video. I'll link that in the description. Now, 2 years later, again, in 2026, Ranvoo reached out to me to see if I wanted to test their new AICE Lite Max 2026 model. Given that I had 2 other neck fans, I knew what I wanted to upgrade and what to look for. Ranvoo did send this to me so that I could review, but no money was exchanged. I also only work with brands that value my review process, and I don't accept content direction. This Ranvoo neck fan is 6 times the price of my last neck fan. What do you get for that increase in price? Is it worth the premium? Let's see what this does offer, especially in comparison to budget versions, and then you can gauge if that makes sense for you or not. This retails for about $216 to $234 USD, about $300 Canadian. Keep in mind that prices are subject to change. If you are planning to use this often, then it's a lot more justifiable in terms of cost. Sometimes there are sales. I also have an exclusive discount code that is in the description, as well as affiliate links. You can check all of those links to see if there are any sales going on. Buying and clicking through those links, it will cost you nothing extra. It will give me a little bit of a kickback, which is always helpful in supporting this channel so I can continue making helpful free content like this. And also it will help to signal to brands that my review was in fact helpful in your purchasing decision. When you look for neck fans, probably you're gonna go on Amazon. There are gonna be a lot. And at the lower tier, it's gonna be really hard to distinguish between different ones. There were only 2 that I was able to find, Ranvoo being one of them, at the top higher tier in terms of features. The other one was from a company called Taurus, and it was a little bit more expensive, and it didn't really offer anything better. So Ranvoo, they have a couple of different products in their lineup, but they kind of specialize in a few, neck fans being one of them, and they've been making neck fans since 2019. They have 8 years of experience, different models that they've upgraded throughout the years. They probably know what they're doing. If you don't know anything about neck fans, you would think that these 3 are quite similar, but they are very much not. I would position this neck fan almost like the Dyson of neck fans. So yeah, it's more expensive. And when Dyson first came out, everyone was like, that is an insane price. They really changed the game. I actually don't even know if I would call this a neck fan. It would be like a wearable, portable AC unit or climate control unit, but it's very wordy to say that. It's not actually like an AC unit, but there are various technologies that sort of mimic it. If you're new here, my name is Jess, and this is Gadgets Gear Coffee. I do in-depth and real use reviews of well-designed gear that makes everyday life a little bit better or more joyful. Things like tech, cycling, coffee, and the gear that connects them. You can discover really cool products along the way with me, and you can subscribe. Hopefully you can stick around. My original neck fan, very simple, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, only has fan setting, and my hair would get caught in here, which is very unpleasant. Also, no adjustability. So when I wear this neck fan, it's very, very loose on me. When I upgraded better battery, I wanted something with a cooling plate. In this price range, I still had to make compromises between bigger battery, between fan, between the cooling plate. It was often either a cooling plate in the back or on the sides, not everywhere. And my hair would still get caught. In terms of design, going to be subjective, but this is by far, for me, the nicest neck fan that I've seen so far on the market. The lines are intentional, the lines are clean. Yeah, they had to put a vent here, but they did it in such a sleek manner. There's metal grills on the back. It looks very techy. It has a very futuristic vibe to it. It's got matte finish, so there's no fingerprints. Very cool to look at. There's also this frosted type of screen, so visually it just ties in. You can still see very clearly everything on here. Every single time I've worn this, granted my friends are not exactly techies, when they would see me with this, they would just go like, ah, cool headphones. It is a little bit on the big side. See that from my 3 versions, it gets bigger and bigger. From here to here, the technology grew, and so did the size. And from here to here, the technology also grew and the size got bigger. It is also going to be a little bit heavier than the others. It comes in at around 520 grams. I actually don't find it heavy at all on me. I looked at the reviews on Amazon. There was like a couple thousand reviews, I think, and some people did complain about it. I don't have a John Cena Formula One swole neck, and I find this very comfortable to use. I didn't find it was pulling on me in any way because it is leaning on your neck, but it's also leaning on your shoulders. I've worn this for full days, day and night. I never had any sore neck muscles, but your mileage will vary. I'm also quite active, so maybe I have more neck muscles than I realize. My neck is actually on the smaller side. I was wondering if this would fit, and this fits perfectly on me. There's an adjustable hinge on the back that's got this rubberized coating on top, and that extends all the way to the back where it says Ranvoo. Your hair will not get caught in here. Circumferences of 8 to 24 inches. This hinge has some resistance to it, so you can position it and it'll pretty much stay. The other one that I was talking about, the Taurus, has 2 hinges on it. It interrupts the cooling plate that we have here. 1 hinge, less interruption, less things to break. And I can feel it touching my neck, and I'm not moving abnormally. I'm not getting jostled. It will stay locked in pretty much, but it also is very easy to move. I don't know how good that resistance is going to be in the long term, and if that's going to become way too soft. If I have any updates to add, like in any of my reviews, it will be in the description in a section called update. I also wore this in cooler weather because it has that heating mode. I had a leather vest upright collar. It felt more restrictive in terms of me being able to move around. For the most part, most people are not gonna have that issue. You're likely going to wear this in warmer weather, so it's unlikely to interfere with anything. I also wore this biking. On my road bike that has a more aggressive forward lean, especially with the dial on the back of the helmet. So this kind of position, I found that the neck fans would get in the way at times. I would have to adjust, move around so that it could fit better. I have an e-bike as well, and I'm in a much more upright position. Also has a dial in the back. It didn't get in the way, and it was perfect to use in that setting. It also comes with a 1-year warranty. It also is developed with some sweat resistance so that it won't short circuit. I don't think there's any waterproofing to it. At least I couldn't find any of that in the specs, which makes sense because if it's like raining outside, you're not gonna keep this on you. It's mostly plastic. I couldn't find specifically what material it was. From another review, I think they had some sort of marketing brochure from Ranvoo, and they mentioned that it's mostly polycarbonate. There is also some metal in some of the grills on the side here and on the back as well. Not sure what the metal plates are made of. I suspect aluminum. I'm quite sensitive to different metals and I get rashes, and this has not given me any type of issues whatsoever. On top of it, this is bladeless. My hair can't get caught in here. Sometimes I hear my hair go into the vent, but it never gets caught, it never gets knotted, it never gets tangled up in here. Whereas on these two, my hair would get stuck in here and then it would tangle and it'd be a whole thing. Never disastrous, but also not pleasant. There are 2 main technologies in the Ranvoo AICE Lite Max neck fan. You have this semiconductor plate. They even mention that they have the industry's largest surface area, which when you compare it to other metrics and other brands, so far what I've seen is they actually do have the largest. Not the entire plate will be touching your skin. Having more is always going to be better. I'm not gonna complain about that because there's more chances of more of it touching your neck. There's 15,020 millimeters square. The difference between the cooling plate, all of this versus this tiny thing on the back. My neck is actually only going to about here. And I noticed that the cooling plate was generally colder right about here. Semiconductor plate can do 2 things. It can cool and it can heat. And then we have the fans. The air is mostly going at the top and a little bit at the bottom towards your back. The fans really help to cool you off when your body's natural cool-off mechanism, sweating, is happening, because it helps to evaporate everything and then helps you feel even colder. I don't have any tools to test the fan intensity, but just to show you that the fan is in fact working, I'm on F4 and I'm gonna show you with my pampas. There are 2 buttons. Right now, it's doing this pulsing blue because it's connected to the app, but it's on standby, so I can always turn it on via the app. This button is flush, this button is sticking up. We have a plus or minus. I like these controls because I find that it's still easy to see this light and see what mode you're on with your peripheral vision. You can't see the display if it's on you, but you can see this, and I feel the difference in button tactilely and visually, because you can see this one. You may not see this one, but you'll be able to feel it as it's sticking out. Makes it very easy to adjust. That with the audio beeping controls excellent to use this and not have to remove it off of your neck. There are 4 main modes utilizing the plates and the fans. Cooling mode that activates the plates as well as the fans. Heating mode, only the plates to heat. Fan only. And AI smart mode can do heating as well. I just don't find it that efficient, so I just mainly use it for cooling, onboard chip, as well as sensors. And depending on the ambient temperature and the humidity, it'll dynamically adjust the temperature instead of just being a preset like the cooling mode would be. I have the app open so that you can see precisely what those temperature and fan settings are. I don't believe that you can change defaulted presets. Short press this to turn it on. You can see the wind setting is a little bit more than half of what it can do. You have fan only on the device itself. You can't go lower than F1. You can go up to F2, F3, F4. Long press this lit button. Change modes, it remembers your last setting. C1, activating the cooling plate as well as the fan. The fan is at a little bit higher than middle level, similar to the F1. And the temperature on the cooling plate is 30. If we go up, cooling plate is now 26. C3, cooling plate's at 21. And there. You have heating mode, which will activate only the plates to heat. Long press to change modes again. Now we have heat setting. H1, H2, H3, 40 to 50. Long press again. We have AI mode, functions a little bit differently. In order to change the temperature, long press it. You can also long press it and it'll keep going. Or you long press it 1, 2, 3, increasing your temperature. If you want to change the fan setting, short pressing, F1, F2, F3, F4. Turn it off, short press. And when you turn it back on, it's on the last setting you had it on. In the AI mode, when it comes to heating, the fan is so light and it won't go powerful. When you have the AI smart mode, in cooling mode, you can adjust the temperature as well as the fan settings, and then it'll dynamically take over to make its own adjustments. It takes into consideration your temperature, takes into consideration the ambient temperature, the humidity. Whenever I need to cool off, I always use the AI mode. I don't like using the cooling mode just because I feel the AI mode, I have more controls. The cooling mode, you have 4 presets. The more you increase the cooling, the more the temperature on the cooling plate increases as well as the fan. They are linear together. But with AI, I can adjust the temperature and the fan separately. And I also have noticed the fan adjusting a little bit on its own without me changing to a different fan setting. Also, it's optimizing your battery, so your runtime is gonna be longer. I did ask Ranvoo about this because I wanted more clarification of what was happening with the AI how I could notice it a little bit better. And they told me that it's still quite in the early stages in terms of like AI. Ultimately, the big changes with this would require a hardware change. That would be in their next generation, that it would be even better, the AI technology, from what I gather. But how it is right now, I very much like. Whether the AI is working or not and doing what it's saying, how it's adjusting things, plenty enough for me, and I like that I can have a little bit more control over the temperature and the fan. On the cooling side, it has a range of 16 to 30 degrees Celsius. To actually feel a difference on my skin, it took me about 10 to 15 seconds. When you heat it, I felt it took a little bit longer. It took maybe 15 to 25 seconds until I felt it. And the range for that is between 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. I was at an event where I was camping and the temperature dropped down to 11 degrees Celsius. So it was quite chilly. There was also high humidity, so it's just like that type of cold just goes right through your clothes, right down to your bones. I used this with the heat mode. It really did make a difference. It's quite impressive how this plate on your neck, either in cooling or heating mode, really does make a difference. Direct skin contact, whether it's been cooling or heating the plate, and I touch my neck after, you can actually feel your neck being hot or cold. The cold is just so impressive to me. When I told my friend that I was reviewing the neck fan, he being a healthcare professional, brought up something very interesting, and it had to do with the carotid arteries that are by your neck, connected from your heart all the way to your brain. And your brain is the computer of your body. One of the things that your brain is gonna do after that is register the temperature of that blood. One of the ways that it can sense temperature if you're overheating and then trigger sweating and vasodilation so that you can cool off. having the neck fan directly on the carotid artery could interfere with that, because now your brain is interpreting that your blood, i.e. your body temperature, is not that hot. It's not the only way that it can, but it's one of the ways. The cooling plate is going to help you feel cooler, but in reality, it's not going to actually make you cooler. In response, sweat a little bit less. It'll be fine for most people in most situations, like commuting, walking outdoors. It's not gonna be a real issue. The worst situations, it's noon, it is strong sun, it's heat wave, 38, 40 degrees Celsius with high humidity, and you're running around a little bit, and then you have this neck fan and you're not taking precautions to stay cool and keep your body cool. In those situations, to still be careful. We don't want anybody getting a heat stroke. Ultimately, this is a comfort device. It is not a heat safety device. Another effective but not convenient way to lower your body's core temperature, dip your hands in cold water like ice water. For the fan, it gets quite powerful. It also can get quite loud. On the device itself, you can adjust the fan, but the lowest fan setting is still a little bit loud. It's audibly noticeable, but I've not had anyone ever comment on it so far. Maybe it's because I'm outside and there's just more ambient noise. It's louder for me than it is for them, also because it's right by your ear. If I'm having a conversation with people, I generally won't have it at the max fan setting. There is a way to make it a little bit quieter without affecting performance, or at least not noticeably, in the app. The fan mostly hits my jaw and the sides of my face and a little bit of my neck. It's not hitting the front of my face. It's not keeping the front of my face dry. And I find that the cooling plates are just more effective anyway at keeping me cool. The fan is definitely nice. I'm not complaining about the fan. I do prefer the hands-free nature of it. Micro HVAC comes into play, 42 plus. Cooling fins. This is where, let's say if I'm using the cooling mode, it will also blow up cold air onto me. Technically it worked, except I didn't notice anything significant when using this. Let's look at the app now. These are the 4 same modes that we have with the onboard controls. However, you can be a bit more granular with the app. On wind, the fan only mode, F mode, is called wind. It's not consistent in how they name it. If I go all the way to F1, a little bit above halfway point, but I actually can keep going down lower with the app. It would say 5 seconds to go from 0 to 100. It's very responsive. Same thing with the cooling mode. Say I'm on cooling 1, but I want to go even colder. I can adjust that on the app. Then you'll notice that there are 4 additional buttons on the bottom. This took me a while to understand. I really wish that there was a tooltip. Silent mode limits the power of the fan and reduces the speed to reduce noise. It does make it a little bit quieter. Not a huge difference, but noticeable. But I still feel a very strong fan. Pause this. In the pausing, I'm not really sure what utility that would be in real life. Hot pack is literally the same thing as heating, except it goes to a preset of 40 right away, which is the lowest heat setting. The moment you start to change the temperature, it turns off hot pack. So this is just like a quick function button. Cooling first, confusing. I feel like the buttons should have been next to each other since it affects this one. It's the same idea as hot pack, where it turns on your cooling mode all the way to C4, which is the lowest temperature setting you can adjust on the plates, and the highest fan setting. Low power limits the power of the cooling plate and reduces sensor power consumption to extend battery life. Into settings, you can do firmware updates. I don't know how often they have firmware updates. I've been on the latest version since I got it. And then for the units, I'm in Celsius, and if I click on Fahrenheit, it switches to Fahrenheit right away. The app will also be in Fahrenheit. A little bit confusing terminology, voice prompt. This is where the button beeping noise is. I actually normally keep it on. I had it off just because I was testing this yesterday. I prefer it on because it gives me feedback. I do wish that I could change the beep volume from low, medium, high. I really wish that there was a percentage-based battery remaining. This is the biggest battery that I have out of all the neck fans. It's 6,000 milliamp hours with a 30-hour runtime and 2-hour charging time with a 15-watt fast charger. Keep in mind that these runtimes are going to be at the lowest fan setting. I don't think anyone that's using this is going to be using it at the low fan settings and is going to get 30-hour runtime. I went to a festival where I used it for heating and cooling. When I had it on heat setting 1, I had it running straight for 4 to 5 hours, and I still had 1 bar battery between H2 and H3 mode settings, and then I ran it straight till the battery died. It was about 5 to 6 hours. With AI mode, to give you an idea, setting the temperature to about 22 to 25, I kept adjusting it. The temperature would also change throughout the day. If it was sunny or not, it would affect how hot I feel. I had the fan running at about F2, sometimes F3, and that lasted me also about 5 to 6 hours. The runtime is really decent considering I wasn't going on a low setting, and that would be my realistic use case for it. The higher end models have, and the budget ones do not, is pass-through charging. It doesn't really matter that much how long the battery life is on this because I can in fact use this while it's charging. Cable that's included with it is a USB-A, wish it was USB-C, but a lot of power banks still have USB-A. And on the other end, you have a USB-C at a 90-degree angle, which is perfect because you stick it in the charging port. The cable is long enough that you could just plug this into a power bank and then stick it in your pocket. And power banks nowadays, like a 10,000 milliamp hour, which would charge this fully at least once, and then you can still have extra juice. Those are pretty inexpensive and pretty small these days. I'll link a couple in the description. So I did actually use this almost the entire day at that festival, and once I plugged it in, I just kept going. This cable could get in the way. I can feel it a little bit right here. I feel like it should have been somewhere else. That could get in the way, jab you a little bit, but you could always find another cable that is more flexible, that is softer, that is thinner maybe even. Unfortunately, like many other devices, this is not user replaceable for the battery, which sucks. I wish that more devices would have user replaceable batteries, and it will degrade over time just like a regular battery will. In order to maximize your battery, in the instruction, there is a whole section in here for optimization on what to do the first time that you get it. I also wanted to share other scenarios and situations that I've used this in that have been helpful. When I'm biking in summer weather, when I did get hot and sweaty, it was less and it was shorter. I was at a restaurant and this time I had my neck fan really hot that day. And everybody I was with were also struggling a little bit with the heat. We asked the restaurant owners, hey, is the AC on? It's at maximum capacity. It just could not keep up with the heat and the humidity. And it got so hot that I actually went to go grab my neck fan, and then I took it off again. I'm like, okay, actually I feel like fine now. Then I got hot again, put it back on. So it definitely made a difference. When I went to that festival, we were camping. I have a blackout tent, kept my tent pretty cool up until about 10 to 11 a.m. And there was one day that it got really hot in my tent, and I actually used my neck fan to keep me cool, and because I just wanted to stay in my tent for a bit longer. And actually I was able to still stay in my tent for another 30, 45 minutes until it got really unbearable because it was getting close to noon and the sun was getting really intense, and that's when I had to exit into the world, but it really did actually help. And then also at night it would get really cold, would fall asleep to this on my neck heating. I have a couple more camping trips I'm going to this year. This is coming with me. I want to set expectations. Don't expect like crazy miracles, but this definitely did help. It really did make a difference. Ultimately, who is this for? Delivery workers, especially the UPS trucks and stuff. They don't have a door, they're in and out. Warehouse workers, they're always on their feet, they need to use their hands. I would be using this traveling, hiking, I've used this biking, parks, hanging out with friends, and we're just like chatting and having a picnic. Outdoor events, amusement parks, festival goers, camping, surprisingly great. It's definitely more expensive than all the other ones, but in my opinion, it is worth it. Is it 6 times worth it compared to all the other ones? That's a big jump in price, and seeing that there's 2 different companies that are about in that price range, I think that's just what it costs to inject all of that technology into here. Since we're on the topic of usable items like for every day, if you want to see some useful, realistic EDC items that I have, you can check that video right here. If not, the YouTube algorithms are saying that this video may be of interest to you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!